you understand how you can provide that to your customers. We're going to offer a new social media classroom series. If you're a company that's not on board with social media, this is going to help you get there. It's going to help you understand a little bit more about what that internet customer is looking for. There's going to be 17 arena demonstrations. We're also going to include some Spanish-speaking arenas to reach out to those installers who are Spanish-speaking that maybe in the past have found it difficult to attend these seminars and have a good, thorough understanding of what they need to be doing. Most importantly, aside from the 110 educational classes, the live seminars, is we're going to have a keynote speaker this year, Mr. Todd Cohen, who's going to give you a better understanding of his belief that everyone in your company is in sales. Everyone within your company should always be a salesperson, representing a consistent message. Todd is going to be holding 3 breakout sessions that are going to be more of a question and answer period where you get a chance to see Todd, ask questions, have him explain his ideas and how they'll work for you. And by attending those 3 sessions, you have an opportunity to see Todd Cohen Unplugged, where it's more of a personal session, and you can attend that for free by attending those other seminars. We've also invited Monroe Porter. Monroe Porter's proof management consultant. He's someone that does a lot of public speaking throughout our industry and was recommended to us by one of our customers. Many view Monroe as having turned their companies around from a business perspective. Business-wise, what can you do within your company to make it a little bit more successful? Monroe will have classes such as improving profits by knowing your numbers, and hardscaping sales, and how to get the job at your price. Definitely one of his more popular classes. We also have Jeff Corin, who will be joining us. He's our social media guy. He's going to be offering 2 full-day social media workshops, and they've been developed specifically for the MAHTS community in an effort to help you learn how to use social media and build your business through sales, customer service, networking, content marketing, all of those types of things. One of the classes you'll see that Jeff will be offering is going to be social media workshops, where strategies for winning the attention of your socially engaged customers. That's a lot of information. A lot of things have changed. A lot of new and improved ways you can make MAHTS beneficial for you. You can find all that at MAHTS.com. And again, you have the ability to register online. So how do we make the most of that? How do we use that to our benefit? That would be our 4th speaker, and someone we invited to come in and really give us an idea before we even get there, how can we be successful in preparing for MAHTS? That's when we welcome in Brad Groff from River Valley Landscapes and Pools. Brad is the co-owner of River Valley Landscapes and Pools. They have award-winning projects that are published nationally, regionally, locally. Brad's very proud of everything he's done, obviously, but I think the thing that he's most proud of is developing a team of processes where he oversees a $4 million business that gets home by 5 o'clock every day. Most recently, Brad decided to share all of these ideas and his management tools and co-founded KPAX, which produces Schedule to Win software, and we'll definitely get a lot more into that later. We invited Brad to speak at MAHTS just about the process to design, sell and market your own award-winning projects. Brad will also show a very time-relevant topic: who will dominate outdoor living in the future? Is it going to be remodelers, pool builders, landscape contractors? And again, MAHTS.com is the place to find all that. But for now, I want to bring Brad in so he can tell us a little bit more about what we can do to be successful at MAHTS. So thanks for joining us, Brad. Appreciate it.
Welcome, everyone. I guess I want to just start off with, I haven't always gotten a lot out of conferences. I've always gotten something from them, and there's so much information that you go to, and you're going to leave with something that's going to be beneficial. But I kind of always wondered of, what was missing, why couldn't I get more, and, why wasn't my staff as excited as I was? When I was just started off my company over 20 years ago, like I said, it was easy. I really knew so little about the industry, even though I graduated with a horticulture degree. So there's so much to learn, and I was just amazed just walking into these types of conferences and seminars and on what I could learn. But I knew there was something missing, and like I said, I'd come back to my staff as my company grew, and I'd be all fired up and saying, this is what we got to do, and I just couldn't get everybody on board. And it kind of took me a while to figure out what that was, and this is, I guess, with first of all looking at of how to get the most out of a conference is probably going back and seeing what I did wrong while attending conferences. And I guess what I like to do is take a look at the top 3 mistakes that I made, and talking to different people in the industry is what I've found too. First of all, I think a lot of us would go and attend without a purpose or a plan. I like to say kind of just looking for that golden nugget, really not sure, just say, hey, they're putting on a great show, there's going to be lots of information, I'm just going to go and see what, attracts me when I'm there, and I'm going to leave with something that's going to be good. So I think that's kind of the first mistake that people make. Probably the second mistake that a lot of us make going to these things is we try to implement too much. It's kind of almost like going to that all-you-can-eat buffet, and you just don't know when to stop, and thinking kind of the more the merrier, and so I'm just going to try to absorb as much in as possible. And as we know in the all-you-can-eat buffets, that doesn't really work too well. And just same thing with the conferences. I think you got to be selective and know when to stop, and know what really where you need to focus on. And the last thing is just trying to implement the wrong things, and not really having a good idea of really what you need to work on in your company.
I think that's definitely good, and what we want to make sure to really elaborate on is, if you're sitting there listening in and you're saying to yourself, gosh, I really don't have a plan, and I feel like it's too short a period of time now for me to get a plan together, maybe I shouldn't go. We definitely don't want that to be the case. So can you talk a little bit more about maybe before you knew you needed a plan, if you got stuff out of the shows and what it did for you?
Yeah, and we definitely always got things from the shows. I mean, whether it was when it was a smaller company with just myself and maybe 1 or 2 others, or when sending my employees. And that's where, if you have any employees that are just really new to the industry, I think it's great for them to just be exposed to that there actually can be a career in this industry. And that can really go a long way for a lot of your employees to just know that this isn't a dead-end job. There's a place to grow. There's so much opportunity out there in this industry as a general. So I think anybody can leave with something very beneficial.
But importantly, you told us what not to do, so that's key. Talk to us, so everyone listening and anyone else that's going to be attending MAHTS, about what can be done or what you can suggest to make sure they're getting what they need.
Yeah, that's a good point, Rob. And I guess where I'd like to take a step with that is, for me, I started out with, like most of you, I went for the school for horticulture, got in, start my own business, and kind of next thing I knew it, I had a business and I had to kind of manage it, but I really didn't understand business. I didn't go to school for business, and most people in this industry don't. They just love what we do, of installing a patio, and that's just what we love to do, and that's what we want to do. But eventually, that's just not enough. So I had to go through and take a couple, learn School of Hard Knocks over the years, and actually contacting a couple of consultants over the years. So what to understand the business side of it. So what I want to do is just kind of go in the rawest form of basically what our business model is, and the main elements of it. And just bear with me here, because this is important, and we're not going to get into all the details of how to run a business, but there are 4 main elements that I really want you to pay attention to. And we're just going to look at that as in the timeline here. And if you look through the timeline of our businesses, everybody, all of us, and our timeline might vary a little bit of how long this process takes, but everything starts with the marketing. We need to have somebody who's interested in our product or services and hear about us, and then give us a call and say, I have an issue, I want to upgrade my property or install a patio in the back, how can you help me out? So everything starts at that. The next thing that we look at is your sales. So once we have somebody who's interested in our service, they contact us. We have to go through a process, and everybody has a different process that they go through, and different size companies may have different processes as well. But you do have a process. You've got to take that lead and meet with that client, work up a design, work up a proposal, set a contract, and get that signed so you can go to the next step. So after that, we go to the next step, which is production. So now you got the lead that came in, you got a contract with a client that this is a service that you've agreed to do. Now you either have to do it yourself or you hand it off to a production staff or some kind of hybrid thereof to get that work done. So that's your third step of our industry and how our business works. The final thing is the finances. So now that we got the product done, now we can actually get paid for it. And that's really on all of us. When you strip it down to to the bare bones, that's what we have for our business.
I think 4 options is obviously it's easy to sit down and look and say, okay, these are the 4 things I need for my business to be successful, done. But it seems a little too easy. What's the catch with it? Like, what do you need to do to manage these 4 different options?
Yeah. That's a great point, Rob. Really, this is the timeline, but really what we have to do is manage these 4 elements. And this is really crucial because if you have these elements and well managed, and then you can build some faith and go to the next step of your business. So you really need to know that each one of these 4 can be trusted, that you don't have people not being able to trust it. If you have your project sold, that your production staff can understand that this does have, it's estimated in the right amount of hours. And your same thing is that your sales staff has to, when they sell it, they have to have faith in their production that they can go through and get the work done that you have designed. And the same thing with even the finances. You need to know that you went through your finances and your budget well enough that you can trust that if you sell it at this job and do it within these hours, you will end up making money with it. Why we need to have everything working together and why you need to trust your different processes, because there's different indicators in businesses that will help you run your business. And there's basically 2 indicators. Your first one is your lagging indicators. And a lot of us probably have heard of these and usually use these, hopefully, with having your profit and loss statement or your job costing. And you're able to go through and learn a little bit about your business and kind of benchmark to see how you're doing. The main problem with this is the main problem with the actual leading or lagging indicators is it tells you what happened after the fact. And so not saying that that's not important, because the lagging indicators definitely are. But really the most important thing is if we were able to have a crystal ball that kind of tells us what's going to happen in the future. And actually in our business we do have that. So I want to go through and just kind of talk to you a little bit about this crystal ball that we can have. And that's, again, this will start to make sense to you on why these 4 elements of business are so crucial to be able to manage them and have trust in how they can all work together. And that's, we talked about the lagging indicators, but the most beneficial in your crystal ball is really your leading indicators. And that's your production, your sales, and your leads or your marketing. And if you're able to go through and trust these, that once you get done with one and you hand it off to the next, it really does give you a crystal ball, with that. And,
I think something important to point out as we talk about indicators and what kind of things are you looking to make sure that you're successful, and how this all ties back into MAHTS with exactly what Brad talks about with marketing, sales, production, financial. If you do have a hard copy of the MAHTS brochure, you will see that with every class description, they are directly tied to these 4 particular things. Everything is color-coded on your hard copy, and if you go to mahts.com, where you have the registration area, every class will begin with one of the corresponding letters with these topics. You'll see an M if it's a marketing class, S for sales, P for production, F for financial. We worked very closely with Brad to make sure that all these things were tied together, so when you do come to the conclusion of Brad's presentation, you'll have a very, very clear path for where you need to be to make sure your one thing's taken care of.
So, we're still trying to figure out, okay, with these leading indicators, how do you, you might say, Brad, I understand you're saying that these are leading indicators, but really, how do they really show me, what's going to happen or predict the future? And we're just going to go through this. We kind of went through a simple timeline, and And what we're going to go through is, let's just look at this timeline in reverse. So reality is, we talked about the end result is your finance or cash, and we all need to have a certain amount of cash to run our business. And your timeline might vary a little bit here, but so just bear with me, because everybody might have their timeline at different paces depending on the makeup of their business. But let's just say that for your finances, that you need to have cash in June. And for you to have cash in June, you need to have that work done, and you need to be able to have an invoice that was sent out to somebody. And that's going to only happen after you produce something from somebody, probably in sometime in May, where you actually have that product, a patio or service that you've provided for somebody. And before you can actually do that work for them, you obviously need to have that sales process completed. And that's going to go back into April. So you can see that if you have a good sales process in April and you're meeting all your sales goals, then you can have some faith that your production staff, because we've already went through how important it is to have everybody working together, and you can't just have one missing piece of this puzzle. And so if that sales goals are being met in April, you know your production staff is going to come through for you, because you've developed that production staff where you're doing it yourself and you know it's going to come through. You've worked on your finances, so you have a good solid budget and plan and a pricing estimating system, so you know the cash is going to be there come June. And before the sales is even your marketing. So again, if you know you have a lot of leads that are good solid leads coming in that March, April time frame, again, you know that your sales process is good, so you know the sales will be there in April. You'll know that the production will be there in May, and you know the finances will be there in June. So that's kind of your leading indicators. And again, business can be that simple, and we're not getting into all the details, but if you can go through and just manage and look at these 4 elements, you basically can predict the future. And you can see also that if your sales are low, what are you going to do about it? I mean, how are you going to make that up? Do you have to do something to increase your sales, or do you need to do something with production to make up for that? So this is a good way to run your business and to go through. But reality is that all 4 of these things are not going to be going as well as you would like.
Well, let's say that you mentioned sales. Sales is my problem. Sales is the thing that I know I need to work on. So do I just get all my sales guys together and send them to MAHTS, and those are the people that I need to focus on getting where they need to be?
And that's a good point, Rob, that you go through and you say that really, for me, my company breaks down at the sales point of it. There's something wrong with my sales, so do I just take my sales staff because everything else is working fine? And I'd say absolutely not. I mean, that's maybe a start, but how much time, if you think about it, how much does your production staff help with your sales? And I guess I think about this myself, with how little your production staff understands sales and how little your sales staff understands production. And maybe your sales staff might understand the production a little bit more, because it's typical in this industry to start out in the production and then you move up into sales. But I know, personally, I do a lot of sales, and end up dressing up, wearing nice pants and stuff to do my presentations. And my father-in-law, he's been in the construction business all of his life, the excavator out in the field all day. And I'd come home sometimes to his place to pick up my daughters, and I'd be all dressed up, and he's like, "Oh, do you have the day off? Didn't you work today?" And it's like, because he just doesn't understand that just because I'm not wearing jeans and boots doesn't mean I didn't work. That's his mentality. It's what he grew up in. So, I mean, to your point, Rob, that if you have some sales issue, it'd be great to have your production staff to understand the sales process and see what they can do. And sorry, I forget the speaker that you said is coming, talking about that exact same thing. Yeah. So, I mean, that'd be great.
Very good. Well, so I guess we've now at this point covered where people are going wrong, not doing the things that they need to do. Understanding how a business can work, obviously, with these 4 elements. People have those understandings. Where do they go from there as they get into MAHTS?
Okay. So, I mean, basically the question Rob's asking, okay, how do we get the most out of MAHTS? That's what this whole webinar is about. How do we get the most of it? And we kind of went through where I've made mistakes, and I'm sure that some of you out there can understand and relate to this, making the same mistakes that I have, because over the years, like I said, I've talked to a lot of different peers, and they're kind of all in the same boat with making those mistakes. Kind of went through the basic business model and structure that we all have to look at, and the importance of why you need to focus on these and how if they are all working together seamlessly, and then you can actually have some faith in having that crystal ball. And the other thing with that good thing of that crystal ball is how many of us can relate to that we really don't ever know if we worked enough. And we just kind of out there and just kind of going and going and going and thinking that, really don't know if you're winning or losing or right on track. So safest thing to do is just keep going. And, if you have these 4 elements that you're able to manage, then you're able to go through and say, you know what, I've done enough. I've done enough today. I've done enough this week. Now I can either make more money or I can end up going home early. I can go take a vacation or a long weekend, whatever it is, because I know if I'm winning or losing because I've been able to manage these 4 things. And I know we can all relate to that, or just not knowing, if we've done enough. So again, back to what does that do for us with MAHTS, and how do we get the most out of MAHTS? And I'd say is really defining those elements. We talked about those 4 elements. We talked on it a little bit about trying to figure out which one do you need to work on. And that's what I'd really do between now and you register for MAHTS, is just go through and think, which one element am I weakest at? What part falls apart in my company makeup? And what part do when I hand it from these leads over to my sales, or my sales to my production, or production to finance, what part is most vulnerable that I have the least amount of faith in? And that's the part that you should look at. And Rob mentioned that earlier, that that the whole registration form goes through listing out all these 4 elements. So every talk and session is going to be able to help you in the sales or production or finance and market. And some of them will even help you in 2 or 3 of them, if not all 4. So that's what we've done here with MAHTS, is being able to help and come with a purpose and with a vision of, this is the one thing that I need to work on. So we're not trying to implement too many things, and we're also not trying to implement the wrong thing. And probably the best way to talk about that is through this next video here. Some of you might recognize this.
Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing. You stick to that and everything else don't mean shit.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.
All right, so you see the one thing from City Slickers, if anybody remembers that movie, and how it really comes down to that one thing. And that's what the point we're trying to make here is that, yeah, a lot of us might have more than one broken piece or in our company, and we want to try to tackle a lot of us. But, reality is most of our businesses are not structured in a way that we can go and try to tackle half a dozen, issues, and at least not all at one time. So I'd really suggest you to come into this, to find your one thing that you need to work on, and then try to figure out a plan on how you're going to do that. And I think that's the great thing about MAHTS. We have multiple ways of you doing that. So after you pull that one thing together, I want you to go through and determine where and how that's going to happen. And we talked about that there's many ways that that's going to happen in the different classes. So you can go through and look through the different class sessions, see which ones are going to help your element of business that you need to work on. There's a lot of different ways. And the great thing, too, is reality is a lot of us learn different ways. Some of us like to hear in a lecture. Others like to be more hands-on. And MAHTS does that. It's not just a bunch of, great speakers up there, although there are a lot of, great speakers this year at MAHTS. It's not just a bunch of great speakers that you got to go and listen, to one after another. And you actually, if the way you learn is to get hands-on. There's going to be the hands-on training to get in there and really see how it's done, right there before your eyes. So it's not just all lecture-type things. The other thing is through the trade show. You can go through and visit different vendors that are there. Because what might help your one thing might be some product that's out there, or a latest tool or, gadget that you might need, to have there. So that's what, also you can look at that to see how that one thing can be improved. And the other thing is networking is the final thing.
Well, definitely, not to interrupt, but for networking, I know that I've been teaching a lot of classes with my time at EP Henry, and I think in the beginning it's so vital for me to go through and have everyone introduce themselves and talk about what they do, because if I don't do that, if you have somebody that's new to the industry, they may be less inclined to stick a hand out and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, fearing that this person's a competitor. So what are your suggestions for that new person that maybe doesn't know as many people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, Rob, I'd take a step back. I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and I can still remember when, first coming out of college, well, I thought I knew everything about, the industry and, I was ready to conquer the world, but in reality, I didn't. And, I just remember looking back at all my different competitors coming up and sharing with me, not necessarily what I was doing wrong, but telling me secrets that, I just didn't, learn in school, and just helped me along the way. So I'd first go to the veterans out there that have been doing this forever, just reach out to these younger girls and guys and just, open up and be able to share, let them know that, what's going on in this industry. And the other thing for the younger, guys and girls out there just starting out is to try to be vulnerable a little bit, get out of your comfort zone, talk to some of these people. And I think that's one of the things that with this one thing is just kind of throw this out there as an icebreaker, just to challenge each other out there. I mean, we all want to get something out of MAHTS. We all want to leave and be able to apply this to our businesses, just to create a better business, stronger place for our employees, better life in general. So, what I'd ask you to do is just challenge each other with that one thing. As you're at lunch or dinner in a class, just ask them, what's that one thing that you're looking to work on? In reality, if you're in the same class, there's a good chance that you're both looking for that same thing. And there's a good chance that one of you has something to teach the other, and it's not just, all your learning is not going to just come from the person who's presenting. It's going to come from each other. A lot of people who go to MAHTS have been through a lot, and be able to help you in ways that you might not be aware of. So I just ask you to really challenge each other and, ask that of, how can I help you out? What are you working on? What's your one thing? I think that's a great way to get a lot from the networking. And I guess the final thing is just applying. I mean, all this means nothing if it's just all head knowledge. It sticks in our head and we don't get back and do anything. And as I kind of mentioned with, my staff, they kind of got tired of me coming back all excited and wondering, what's going to be different about this time. And so I'd really ask you to do that. And I guess if I can just share one, final experience.
Absolutely.
With this is, I remember a time where, I don't remember how many years back it was, but there was a time when we had the right message. We knew that our company grew to a point where we needed to start running things by the numbers a little bit. We couldn't just, it grew to a point where we just couldn't get a pulse of the business, just weren't involved with every element enough. So we knew that going to one of these conferences that we needed to run our business a little bit more by the numbers. So we came back all excited, my partner and I, delivered this to our staff. And again, this was the right time and the right thing that had to be done in our company. But we went through and presented it in the most awful way of, we kind of developed a work culture that, what we were going to do is do it right, no matter what it took. And we developed that. It took us many years to kind of develop that. But with this one change that we made, we changed the culture of our company, that the way they interpreted our presentation was that we no longer cared about quality. All we were out to do is make $1. And anything that matters was getting the jobs done on time. And it took us a while to realize that confusion that we stirred up. And it took a couple months for us to realize it, and it took just as long, if not longer, for us to fix the problem and get it all out. So I guess what I would just challenge you to do is get your one thing, figure out how you're going to do it, and that's I guess another reason of bringing more people to an actual individual class. Like we talked about, if you have a sales issue, does your production staff come? And I think that this is a great reason, because I'm looking at it now that if we had, when we sat through those different classes and really narrowing down that this is what our company needed to do at this time. It runs by the numbers. If I could go back and do it all again, I would have had every single one of my employees listen to every one of those sessions that I had, because then they would have heard it, not just from me, they would have heard it from a third party, and it would have been, I think, a lot clearer for them to understand, what needed to be done in our company and where we were at. So that's probably my last and final, part with that. Of making sure you leave with being able to apply it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously all good points, and Brad, we certainly appreciate you taking the time out to speak with everyone and get everything done. We have additional questions that you have. If anyone does have any, you do have a chat function on your right-hand side of your toolbar there, on the top right-hand side. I had someone ask me after the first webinar how I could sum up what Brad talks about and the points that he tries to make that was unable to attend. And what I kind of explained to that person is you almost have to treat your business in Brad's eyes as if you are building that patio, where you evaluate the site, you get your base materials all solid, and then you build one brick at a time. But the purpose of building one brick at a time is so at the end, that entire patio or structure moves as one unit to make it strong. And I think building your business step by step, not sending 10 different people to 10 different classes, but getting everyone together on the same page, these 4 elements really allow you to identify how you're going to be able to do that. As far as what Brad's going to be willing to do for you, www.offer.schedule2win.com. That's going to allow you to sign up for a free trial with Brad, free through April, and then you would have an opportunity for a 20% discount through 2013 to kind of pick Brad's brain. What is Schedule to Win? What do I need to do in my business to make it more successful, to make sure that when I sit down and look at that calendar at the end of every day and at the end of every week, I already know that I'm successful. I already know that I have the things that I need to have. And Brad, what's a good email address for you?
You can reach me at brad@rivervalleylandscapes.com. Just make sure you have that plural, landscapes.com. If you have any questions, feel free to email me on that. And as Rob said, also if you want to sign up for our special offer with the Schedule to Win, you can go into there. Tell us a little bit about my story and what our Schedule to Win scheduling software has to offer. So if you have any questions about that as well, feel free to email me with any of those questions.
And again, MAHTS.com. It's important for you to note that we have our shows in Lancaster. January 14th through January 16th will be our education portion. January 15th through January 16th will be our actual trade show in Lancaster, PA. And then February 11th through February 14th will be our education portion in Atlantic City. And February 12th through February 13th will be our trade show in Atlantic City. Make sure you register early, get your name in, analyze the classes, see what one thing you're looking to work on. Again, that's MAHTS.com, where you'll find all your registration information, all of your speaker and class information. And if that's all, we certainly thank everyone for taking the time out today, and we look forward to seeing you at MAHTS.